Welcome everyone, and thank you, Judy, for joining us for the Zoomeet from Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I'm very excited today to hear your story as a social worker in community development and doing this work for many years. And now you have an opportunity for people who will be listening to our Zoomeet to hear the story of what is social work in community setting. And can you share a little bit about your journey to your social work?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you for inviting me. So this is kind of a long story. I hope you're ready for it.
Yes.
When I was finishing high school, I was interested in helping people, and I had planned to enroll in social work at university. But my father, who rarely disagreed with my decisions, suggested that a social work was a career that burnt people out. So that was an experience as a teacher in the inner city. So I studied architecture, like pre-architecture first at university, and then I went into graphic arts in a college program. And so during my employment with a large printing company in the 80s, I was very, very active, quite active on the social committee. And I was approached by the management to take a 1-week course delivered by the United Way of Winnipeg, looking at resources to train people in workplaces to be resource, basically people, to link employees with United Way services and programs if they had the need. So shortly after this volunteer role at work, a coworker came to me and she had experienced a fire in her place. So she had lost everything and she had children and she was devastated. And though I could provide her with some resource information on where to get clothes, where to get toys for her children, as I listened to her, I really felt, I wish I had some counseling skills to be able to really, ask the right questions or say the right things. I just felt a little bit awkward. So I just kind of kept it in mind. And years later, when I had time, I volunteered at the Fort Garry Women's Resource Center and was accepted into their peer counseling program. So I became a peer counselor and I volunteered at the Fort Garry Women's Resource Center for about the next 7 years. That was a commitment of probably once a week and then meetings once a month as a group. And so that was really good. I found that was kind of my calling. And then it was actually years later before I went into the actual social work program. But through the next so many years, I did various volunteer work. I did work hired as a kind of more of an employment coach type of person, worked at resource centers with women, coaching them around employment planning and career planning. And then took some other courses on the side, like apparel design, just other things to fill my time. I always wanted to kind of like take courses and be in school. And then basically, I did get a job with the province of Manitoba in the 90s, probably, as an employment officer working with a youth program, summer program that I got hired back for the next kind of 8 years. And in between that, I ended up working at spent 1 year at the North End Women's Center as a volunteer coordinator there. So again, I'm working with various people in the community, really getting that sense of programming that goes on in inner cities, that kind of thing. So I have this on my background. And as I moved on to more work with nonprofits, kind of similar things with women, I would take several women who were applying their careers with me to the inner city social work program. And they would go to their orientation and they would end up deciding to register. And then one day I asked the dean if I would qualify for the part-time inner city social work program because I worked in the inner city. That was my area of expertise. And I hadn't really thought I would be accepted, but she said, of course, this is what you've been doing all your life, Judy. Yes, you could apply for the part-time social work program. And so that fit because really, through the years, I really hadn't had an opportunity with a family, with a mortgage, with children to go back to school to do social work. So this was my opportunity in 2004. I started the part-time inner city social work program, loved it. And because you really kind of stayed in your cohort the whole time, you got to know the other people. And because I have a life experience from doing social worky type of work for many years, I can relate it all to a lot of the stuff we did in school and what I learned. I just have the theories now and the policies and the names of the different various people who kind of led the social work, et cetera, through the years. So I had that down pat. after those years in school. I loved it so much that I decided to apply for the master's program. Actually, I should say Sasha put that bug into all of our heads. When he was teaching us, he said, you know what, when we did one of our projects for him, he said, this is just like a thesis almost. You can all do this. So there you go. You put the bug in our heads, and a few of us went on to do our master's in social work. Sasha had been teaching us community development program at the university campus at that time. So I went on, I did get a scholarship, and I was able to, that was very helpful in the master's program. And I graduated from that program in 2015. My long story.
So, but it's very inspiring story. You were doing community work all your life. It's from different perspective, and now you have opportunity to continue doing this work and having experience of taking BSW and MSW. And when you were sharing, it reminded me those basic classes in the inner city on Selkirk Avenue, on how in the evening when it was after work, we were coming together for full year and learning community development together.
Yes.
And how much everyone has knowledge and shared, and your experience is incredible when we think about how much work you were doing before to build social work career in terms of, and as you shared, it's not, family was not at the beginning very supportive, but you were thinking about social work for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And yeah, I'm glad we have that cohort.
Yes.
Although we are at distance or on Zoom, we still have that connection.
Yes.
From 2006 or 7 till
Yes.
whatever the year is now.
Yes.
And it's a joy. I'm glad it can bring those type of memories. And now you have masters. I also talk about PhD as an option. So every time it's but it's how you define social work right now. When you see an evolution of what we call social work at this point, how do you define it for yourself?
Well, I still think that it's all about, very much of a helping profession, but not just helping, you're really letting people help themselves, providing the resources and information to various groups of people and groups of people, communities, organizations, in our communities, but all over the world. You're really doing that to give them access to various opportunities, to break down barriers for people. And it all, crosses all the different sectors, social, economic, political, everything, if you can, so that's it's really wide. It's got a huge scope, what it can be and mean for people.
In the community, your passion, it's community.
It has been, yes, definitely. Yes, because you really can see results quite quickly. That's probably part of it. It's satisfying in that sense for me.
And you continue working in community. What is your current?
I do. So my current role, since about 2013, I was hired with the province of Manitoba as a policy analyst or project officer with the community development branch. And now we're with the Department of Municipal Relations. So the program I work with, we provide funding to community groups in the province for projects, capital needs, planning, that kind of thing. And besides my day job, I'm also involved with various volunteer roles in the community. I'm a program director at an art center in our local art center. I'm a coordinator of a fitness group that offers free fitness training to the public. I was just asked to sit in an advisory committee that's doing a project in Manitoba that's trying to tell the story of Black and African people in Manitoba from the impact of community organization in the province. I'm also the co-chair of an arts and mentorship program and summer festival that focuses on supporting and showing and showcasing emerging artists' work from communities underrepresented in the arts sector. So seem to be, and it does seem that it's interesting how things change as the more you know people, the more you do work, because I seem to be asked to do more things, to sit on more committees, and if I have the time, I find the time usually, but it's usually of interest to me, so I'm enjoying being asked.
Great, and you have knowledge to share. That's the most important part because of your experiences throughout, and that's where you can share. And you're doing also a lot when you were listening and sharing in terms of your role, you engage in community in different aspects. You volunteer, you participate through governments, through policy analysis, you build or connections, you building what you've already done for many years now on a more levels, like from government, from community. I always ask, what keeps you balanced? What maintains that drive, passion, excitement?
I don't know. I don't need a lot of downtime to want to do something else. If I have too much downtime, I fill it with something. I don't know why. I end up filling it up, and I know it's a habit. I know when I do retire, let's say from this formal job, I do have ideas of what I want to do next. But I have a feeling that it won't be. I know I'll be busy and doing other things. Yes.
It looks like you. I didn't know what happens when you are not busy. Is there such time exist because you've done so much with different groups, and that's incredible. You're sharing your caring and your passion, your love for the work is in everything what you do.
Thank you.
It's I'm simply quite excited because when I learn know you and how much you work in a community and your engagement and support and your amazing cooking skills when you were doing fundraising, you were building, you were supporting us with every possible opportunity. That's incredible. That commitment to social justice, commitment to community work always reminds me how much passion is to be a social worker. And at the same time, where are your supports coming from?
Well, I mean, I guess my family has always been a supporter of what I do. So I guess that would be it. They are pretty, I mean, I sometimes I think I don't give them enough time, as much time as I maybe should, but they're very patient about it. And I try to involve them. If I can get them roped into something I'm doing, then that's even better. Then I can enjoy myself a lot more at the project. And I've done that before. I've had my family come on board with me for some volunteer activities, whether they're bartending at a fundraiser for me with us, or, you know, running another free program, helping to coordinate something with me, then it makes it a lot easier for sure.
And that's great. So your family is one of the source. If you
Yes.
think about if somebody who will be watching this, who think about social work, what type of ideas or advice or tips you can give to a person who just starts thinking about social work? Where it's a good place to start and how to continue practicing social work?
Well, I was thinking about if you're going into a practicum, let's say you're in social work and or you're looking at social work, you should think about things you don't know about the community. Make a list of all the things you don't know and want to know, and then try to seek out those volunteer positions or that practicum position. For me, when I made my list, when I was in bachelor's program, I had on my list, I had community development. I did not know what that meant. I saw the word, did not know really what it meant. The course I took with you was helped me, but I still really didn't know the grassroots and how you need to really consult the community before you make decisions for the community. I learned that. And I don't know much about corrections. So corrections was on my list as well. I was very interested in working as a volunteer practicum in a women's correction facility because I knew I didn't really have an understanding of that. So I think that would be helpful if you can do as much volunteer work as you can in areas that you know nothing about. And that way you'll find out more. And there's all these hidden jobs, right? So even any work experience you take is going to give you information on hidden jobs.
Right, and that curiosity and open-mindedness which you have and desire to learn. That's what, because of unknown,
Yes.
doing something which you are unknown at the time of doing.
Yes.
Wow, that's very helpful.
Yeah, the other thing I did, just my, I know I done a lot of work with women's programs for the years. So my second practicum, I asked to work in a place where I'd be able to counsel men, because I really had not done that in my experience as a social worker and even before that. So that was really important as well. So anyways.
And what job for yourself were you, from your experiences, where you find yourself giving the most in terms of your energy, excitement, where you get from satisfaction of your work for what you've done so many things?
Probably, like when it comes to my day job, when I'm working with community groups, I really like it when I go out and meet them and help them problem shoot, like an issue that they're trying to resolve with a program or situation, help them develop a program that they know they need. They have the issue. We just want to brainstorm how that they might be able to plan something so it'll have the outcomes they're hoping to have. So I like being involved in that part of the process. Yeah, so I just, and creating anything that engages people, especially people who aren't formally or currently engaged in something. If you can think of something that will engage more people, give them that experience and help them meet together, gather together, exchange ideas.
Wow. No, and community, you probably have lots of opportunity to engage.
Yes, there is opportunities, but you still have to do it right. You need to, I mean, people don't just come out because you're, food does attract people, I must say, but, but, if they haven't helped you decide what they need, then things don't usually work for you.
Yes.
Calling a program.
There is much more to organize than just having food. Food will
Yes.
make it, but you still need to make sure you have skills and knowledge and understanding of what's happening in the community and where your supports can come.
Yeah.
What do you think from your perspective will be the guiding value which drives your work?
Again, I think it's like a lot of what I do and think of when I'm working with anything is that the answer, like one of my interview questions, or when I was asked at an interview years ago, I said, my value, the answer is never no. When I work with something, there's always a solution there somewhere. So that's kind of a policy or value I have, is that, I don't spend a lot of time crying over spilt milk or worrying about things that happen in some ways, like just unless you can break it down to learn from it. But then I move on. What needs to happen? What can we do? What's out there?
Solution focused and
Very,
trying
very
to
solution focused. Yeah.
understand how different things, where you can get supports and where there is a challenges.
Yes.
So to understand what need to be avoided and how it need to be avoided, or maybe what type of solution might work in that situation, knowing the resources people have. And wow.
Exactly. And knowing that people often have, everyone, like other people are the experts. Community is an expert. Like you're not the expert. That's a rule that I learned when I was a peer counselor at the Women's Center all those years ago, is that, you're only there as kind of like this, almost this resource, this person they'll bounce things off you, but they have the solutions. They're the experts, and it'll all come out. Yes.
Yeah, dignity and worth of every person, and understanding that people
Yes.
have skills, values, knowledges, which will be able to guide them in looking for a solution. Wow, that's again, this is the message for all social workers to remember, because when we think about one thing, what you wish general public will know about social work, what it is from your perspective.
Well, of course, if I tell someone I'm a social worker, a lot of people presume that you're working with child and family services, number one, or that you're in a school or in a hospital. Those seems to be the scenarios that I hear. So I just think that, we don't all work in hospitals and child and family and so on, and that we're everywhere in your community. And we're interested in people, we're interested in issues, organizations, we're interested in social research and government policies and change. So it could be a career for anyone who really wants to see change happen.
Yeah.
In any area, all those areas.
Yeah, in any area of human needs. That's very important to know that child and family services is one of those areas, and hospital, but there is many more where people work in corrections, people work in mental health and addiction field of practice, people work in community, people work in health and refugee. And you're right, this is idea of social work which is much more broader, and you can find yourself in the area as long as you have the values which are consistent with the profession. You will be able to apply it in different settings, as you shared in community, where you work for most of your activities in that part. And in terms of right now for yourself, what keeps you interested in learning new things?
Well, I think I've always been that way. I'm always ready to learn something new. I just took a course, just wrapped up this last week, an 8-week course. It was how to create a docudrama.
Mhm.
And so it was partially on Zoom or in person. And at the end of we were all writing a 15-minute script. And I took the issue. I went through some of my dad's journals. My dad started writing when he was 15. So I went through some of his journals and I did a scenario of me being 15, him being in his 40s, and us playing chess, and me asking him about being 15, growing up in Trinidad, and what was going on for him. And then I was on my way, but I had my own life at 15 here, and his life was very different at 15 there. So my scenario, so that was really enlightening for me to read his journals, number one, and to take this course and learn about script writing. And I can see how it could play out in scenarios. When I think about, I'm really interested in family origin work, but I think having a script would be nice as well when you think about working with someone or writing something about your family, or anyways, reliving something. So I think even though I took this for kind of pleasure, I can see it going this new skill that basic skill I've been learning, working into something I might do in the community as well.
Yeah, and you're always trying to build all your knowledge and to enhance your community. This is an excitement of itself, just having that desire to learn, desire to practice, but also seeing how it can apply to your life in terms of understanding the journals from your dad, but also seeing where it can fit into community and how to share your knowledge. This is what I found the most. I'm grateful again, even for the time today, because of sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience, and being not afraid to come on Zoom and highlight what you've done, because I know it's sometimes challenging as a social worker to speak about and how to highlight different practices and from different experience, and knowing that community not always have the same view of social workers as we do have in terms of understanding of the value-based profession and commitment to change and looking on social justice from lens of professional values. This ability to share, it's actually great that you have and your desire to build this type of skills. In terms of, I already noticed you use a lot of creativity in your work. What is some of the creative skills you use the most, which can enhance your social practice?
Probably some of the writing skills I will need to do the work I do, like be creative in the writing of proposals, right? You're looking for money, you got to be very creative sometimes. But besides that, like I do have some hard skills, life skills that I would love to pass on, and I have, like I love to sew. And I've taught some basic sewing classes. And even when when I was at the Northern Women's Center as a volunteer coordinator years ago, part of my job was teaching sewing, basic sewing skills. And then we had a quilt making program. We started making star blankets there. But I mean, it was just a matter of the skills mastery, seeing people who have never used a machine or not in years, find out they can actually, that they're doing it and they're loving it and they're liking fabric and they're making things, and then they're proud and they're showing their families what they're making. Like I think being creative in that sense, taking those types of skills, whether it's sewing or cooking or teaching and sharing those can be very empowering for people, and also gives you another time and place to do any type of support, counseling work, empowerment work, all that kind of stuff. So I'll do it that way. I'll do it that way as well.
So this is, again, creative use of different talents and gifts you have in supporting community, like when you say about sewing skills and how you build this part of skill set with community members. Critical. Wow. I always ask a question. If somebody wants to reach out to you, how they can find you?
Well, they can probably Instagram. I'm not Instagram, sorry. Messenger, I meant to say Messenger. That's probably, I mean, besides you contacting you for my information, my contact information, they would probably find me just, Judy Williams on Messenger.
Messenger.
I'm guessing. Yeah. Because that would be probably the easiest way.
Or come to the community.
Or come to the community, or come to the, like, I'm not sure. What else would you suggest, Sasha?
Well, I'm maybe in the art center where we went
Yeah,
people can.
the St.
So
Norbert Arts Center. Yes, so
that's what
that's,
I'm thinking. So because
yeah,
your current work is connected very well with our art center.
my volunteer work, yes,
Yeah.
it is. Mhm. Mhm.
Yes. So because that's what sometimes I always find people ask where I can meet some social workers or connect with social workers. If this is where the opportunity will be possible. Again, it's something which you can share in terms of for now, when you are building your practice every day. For what do you think will be where as a like already curriculum program as a teacher for myself, where do you think social worker education might go in terms of what courses we might need to develop, design? What do you think now you're practicing? What you think might be additional learning you can get from university, some of the courses where you think we can enhance the programming?
Good question. I know at the University of Manitoba, I was on a committee that was looking at adding some more programs on racism and on the Black history of Canadians kind of thing, and immigration, like a few more like that for entry social work. So I always think that I know the question is, what do you do with a social work degree?
Yeah.
So I think more in the very first year of even taking people out to see community groups and see different places where social workers work, and or having them on site, like more classes where people get that information early on, so they can start to choose the right courses that they want to take, and or even think about where they might want to volunteer. Because as a career person, I've done careers all my life as well, planning, but I know that education is one thing, but employers want to see your practical skills from having worked in an area. So if you can volunteer and gain some skills, like I always say, volunteering, you're not paying anything, but it's like free school. So think of it that way. And then it also really can move your career. Besides connecting you with people, it can. So more, maybe even need, I don't know. So something that would support that type of information for new students would be good. I think that's all I can think of at this moment.
And I think that's a very useful idea that people have experience as a volunteer experience. When they come to social work, it's very critical that you have connection to community, because you will still be exploring where you will be going, but to have that experience before you go to school. What I'm thinking right now, when you share for people who don't, it will be good to have in the program opportunities so they can start learning what type of social work can be done. And even listening to the Zoomeet will allow people to hear about community social work, which is not a field of practice you will hear a lot in practicing social work. So, and as you shared, you're right, we have very few Afrocentric social work classes. I'm being grateful to teach in Dalhousie, where Dr. Wanda Thomas Bernard doing the Afrocentric perspective. It's the only course which was available across Canada. So I'm hopeful right now in TRU we have race and racialization course, just to make sure we build on the knowledge, because in Manitoba it was only elective course if you take immigration, refugee.
Yes, it's true.
And it was not required. We want to make sure we move that people will have a general knowledge about race, racism, and how it's present currently in community on individual, cultural, and structural levels of oppression and privilege. So, I'm glad you highlighted, because it's in a new curriculum. It's become one of the core learning objectives, talking about anti-racism. So I'm glad to see that this work, because you were doing community work at the same time when I was doing the teaching part. And for me, that connection is so critical, because we need to be able to respond to people's needs in a community when we use education as a tool for getting social work experiences for anybody who just started learning. No, great. Thank you, Judy. Any last words which you would like to share for the newcomers to social work profession who are interested to learn about social work, and how we can ensure that we can do connection with community more successful?
Well, I would say that find your friends, like, I mean, make friends with everyone, obviously, But, I know one thing I did in school was I shared my notes. So share your notes, because everyone can help each other. So if you're a person, like I was a person who would come home every night and type my notes, but I would give them to my friends, because some people had issues trying to write and listen. And that way, we all helped each other through the course, because it's all about learning and working together, right?
That's
Um,
right.
and I know one of the questions I want to know a book that I would recommend, or
Yes. Oh, yes. I will book or any ideas which you think will be good for people to know.
Well, I really like, and maybe you have this book, is a book, an Army of Problem Solvers, that was written by our local Winnipegger, Sean Loney. It's totally the way I think. It's like you go into a community and see an issue, and then you design a program to solve that problem. So there's no problems really. They're all just solvable with some type of technique or solution, or whatever, infrastructure or something like that. And you can put people to work and etc. So that's a book that I think everyone should try to read.
Great. And that's something which I also ask, like what resources you recommend. You already shared the book for yourself. Anything else what inspired you from resources to practice social work?
Well, I know when I
Movies.
was newer in the field, I really liked, and I don't think it's available anymore, but they used to put out a publication called Contact. I think you can get it online now, but the Volunteer Center in Manitoba put out this hard copy resource book, and then it went online, where you could find out about all the different organizations in your city and province and what they did. And that was super helpful. I still have old copies of it.
Me too.
And so I would share that with anyone who was even thinking, even if you're looking for a volunteer work in the field, it would be a great place. You want to work with women? Go through the book, Women. All these lists and long lists of places that do support services for women and programs. And they could pick one that you thought you would like to work with at or volunteer at. And it's such an amazing collection.
Right, like this thick.
It was thick. It was thick. Yes. So
yeah.
that was a really good resource. I know I did also, when I was going to school, I bought the social work dictionary.
Mhm.
And I also found a practice, if you're in school, I did make flashcards for some of my courses, especially the ones where you had to memorize dates and names of, various theorists. Some tips.
No, that's helpful. I started using concept posts, where we'd explore different concepts from a dictionary or related to the course content in more detail.
And one thing that's helped me too, when I was in, what class was it? The class where we had to make a genogram.
Human behavior, social environment.
Yes. I ended up tracing back my family history on both sides to slavery. That was my plan. And I went back on my mom's and dad's sides that far. And so that information, I was able to get it. I did this in 2005 or 6, I guess, which was perfect, because then I would roll out this long sheet of paper when my aunts and uncles were over and get them to add in pieces of it, like in who was sick, who had this, who had that, whatever was going on, and names of people. So I have this now, and now a lot of people have passed away, but I have that information. So I'm really happy I did that in school.
Yes, that who am I question when we understand ourselves in our environment, and genogram and ecomap skills just to understand our history, a history of our ancestors, and where some things which we are currently carrying from the experience, where they come from, and how we can grow from that knowledge, because it's not always easy to find that information, but when you find, you have this information with you forever. That's
exactly.
No, that's Judy. No, thank you so much, Judy, for this time. And
I
always ask, if you have somebody whom you can nominate for next Zoom meet, you are welcome to share. If you know somebody who inspire you to do social work as a person.
So well,
approach.
You have Sasha.
Oh,
you don't count?
I have somebody else. Like, I can do interview with myself, but it's much more nice.
Well, I've been doing a lot with Omar lately, so I would let me nominate him.
Okay, I will contact Omar and find out. That's something I will do a circle now to make sure we can connect, because one of the good thing about right now for bringing social work into the front We have amazing people in the community across Canada. And now we can connect through online and have this opportunity to listen to your amazing story, which you are sharing with us, to build what you've done in your community, to connect people, to support each other, to build the skills, to challenge injustices, to work through multiple challenges in the community to meet those needs and to solve the problems. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.